You know the drill. You've done the crunches, you've obsessively cut your calories, you've even stepped on the scale and watched the numbers drop. But then you look in the mirror, and your belly? It hasn't changed. It seriously feels like your midsection is playing by an entirely different set of rules from the rest of your body. Well, here's the unsettling truth. It actually is. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cutting straight through the quick fix clickbait to decode the actual biological survival code that makes belly fat so incredibly stubborn. And more importantly, we're going to talk about exactly how you can rewrite it.
So why won't the belly fat budge when literally everything else leans out? Look, most of us just assume belly fat is this passive storage locker for extra energy, right? Just a place where extra calories sit. But the latest science paints a completely different picture. Your midsection operates way more like a living, breathing, and highly active organ. It consistently outsmarts your standard weight loss efforts because, well, it's biologically programmed to stay right where it is.
To understand this, we have to realize that belly fat isn't just one thing. It's actually two completely different types of tissue. You've got subcutaneous fat and you've got visceral fat. Now, the pinchable stuff right under your skin, that's subcutaneous. Think of it kind of like a savings account. It's annoying when there's too much in there, sure, but it's relatively harmless, and it's mostly just sitting there for a rainy day. But deep inside, wrapped tightly around your liver, your kidneys, and your intestines, is the real villain. Visceral fat. This stuff acts like a high-interest credit card. It's a highly active metabolic factory that's constantly pumping out inflammatory signals and hormones that just disrupt your entire system.
And the real secret to why it's so stubborn lies in something called the alpha lock. See, your fat cells have two distinct types of receptors. You've got beta receptors, which act like gas pedals to burn fat, and you've got alpha receptors, which act like the brakes. And unfortunately for us, your belly is absolutely loaded with these biological brakes. They literally trap the fat and lock it inside the cell. Combine that with the fact that your lower abdomen naturally gets really poor blood flow compared to, say, your arms or your legs, and you've got a massive problem on your hands. The fat-burning hormones your body naturally produces can't even reach the cells they're supposed to unlock.
Now, you might be wondering, why on earth would our bodies design such a frustrating, locked-down system? Well, it all comes down to a massive evolutionary mismatch with our basal metabolic rate, or our BMR. For 99% of human history, food was incredibly scarce. So, storing fat deep in the abdomen, safely protected near your vital organs, that was a survival masterpiece. It was our ultimate emergency fuel tank. The problem is, today we are walking around running on 50,000-year-old survival software in a world of 24-hour drive-thrus. So, when you drastically cut your calories to try and lose weight, your body doesn't know you're just trying to look good for the beach. It interprets that sudden drop in food as a life-threatening famine.
So what happens? Slashing your calories to try and beat the system forces your basal metabolic rate to slam on the brakes and slow right down to match the deficit. It's literally like trying to save money by not spending, only for your boss to immediately turn around and cut your salary by the exact same amount. You end up absolutely nowhere. And this is exactly why that super simple calories in versus calories out math so often completely fails when we're dealing with the belly.
All right, so how do we fix it? Let's get into part one, the hormonal trinity. We need a hormonal reset.
To actually burn belly fat, you have to reset your system. And that starts with three master hormones. The very first one is insulin, which we can think of as the gatekeeper. When your insulin levels are high, those fat cell doors we talked about earlier, they are locked completely shut. No exceptions. If you're constantly eating or grazing throughout the day, even if you're eating what you think are super healthy snacks, you're keeping your insulin constantly spiked. And as long as that insulin is up, your body never ever gets the biological green light to unlock those cells and burn its own stored fuel.
Next up is cortisol, also known as the storage manager. Cortisol gets triggered by two massive realities of modern life: chronic stress and a lack of sleep. When cortisol floods your system, it explicitly gives the order to dump fat directly into that dangerous, deep, visceral region. It does this because cortisol is basically a danger signal. It perceives a threat, and it actively tries to pad and protect your vital organs from whatever danger it thinks is coming. And I really want you to hear this next number, because it's wild. 11. Research shows there is a staggeringly high 11% increase in visceral fat caused simply by sleeping only 4 hours a night. 11%. Just let that sink in for a second. Simply by cutting your sleep short, you are actively instructing your body's storage manager to pack away an 11% increase in the most dangerous type of fat imaginable, directly into your belly.
The third and final hormone in our trinity is growth hormone. Think of this as the night shift burner. This hormone is the absolute worst enemy of belly fat. It's primarily released while you're in a really deep sleep and during intense exercise. But here is the devastating loop that traps so many people. If you're into late-night snacking, you keep that gatekeeper, insulin, high right before you go to bed. And high insulin completely shuts down your body's production of growth hormone. You are effectively firing your night shift burner before it even gets a chance to clock in for the evening. Which brings us to part 2, hacking the biological code. Here is our 3-pronged strategy to fix this.
So how do we actually deploy this strategy? First up is throwing a metabolic switch. And we do that with 16/8 intermittent fasting. Now remember, intermittent fasting isn't some traditional restrictive diet, it's just a timing tool. By compressing all of your meals into an 8-hour eating window and fasting for the other 16 hours, you physically force your insulin levels to drop low enough for long enough that the body literally has no choice. It has to start eating its own visceral fat for energy. It preserves your muscle while acting like a laser targeting that deep, stubborn belly fat.
The second hack comes down to another really crucial number, 3.7. The research is fascinating here. It shows that for every 10 grams of soluble fiber you add to your daily diet, your visceral fat accumulation drops by a highly significant 3.7% over 5 years. 3.7%, and that is just by adding one simple element to your daily routine, without drastically changing anything else in your life.
So why does something as simple as fiber work so well? Well, soluble fiber, which you find tons of in foods like apples, peas, and beans, isn't just there to keep your digestion moving. It actively acts as a blood sugar sponge in your body. When you eat it, it literally slows down the digestion process and dramatically softens the insulin spike you get from your meals. And as we know, lower insulin spikes mean way less time with those fat cell gates locked shut.
Our third strategy addresses exercise, and this is where we see a huge contrast. When most people decide to lose belly fat, what do? They immediately hit the treadmill and just run for miles. Long-duration cardio. But here's the catch. If you are already stressed out in your daily life, endless running can actually spike your cortisol levels, remember our storage manager, and that forcefully protects your belly fat. The true secret here is heavy resistance training. Building muscle is incredibly metabolically expensive for your body to maintain. That means if you build more muscle, you are burning more fat all day long. Yes, even when you're literally just sitting on the couch watching TV.
Okay, moving to part 3, the walking paradox. This is all about clearing the exhaust. Think of it this way. If heavy lifting builds a bigger, better engine, walking is how you clear the exhaust. Unlike that heavy, long-duration cardio we just talked about, walking won't spike your cortisol. Not at all. And right around the 30-minute mark of a good walk, something amazing happens. Your body dramatically shifts away from burning stored sugar and skyrockets right into burning pure fat. Getting your daily steps in isn't just some arbitrary fitness tracker goal. Walking practically acts as a hormonal flush. It clears out the cortisol, and it wildly improves your insulin sensitivity, which basically means your body needs way less insulin to process the food you eat. All right, so let's pull all this incredible science together into the whole shebang, a highly actionable plan. We call this the Recode Plan. Step 1, prioritize your sleep. Getting 7 to 9 hours is absolutely non-negotiable if you actually want to control your cortisol. Step 2, adopt the 16/8 window. Stop the constant snacking and let that insulin drop. Step 3, eat your fiber first. Start your meals with that biological sponge to soak up the sugar. And finally, step 4, lift heavy things to build your metabolic engine and walk every single day to clear the exhaust. The big takeaway here, you've got to stop fighting your biology and start working with it.
Look, your body isn't broken, and it is certainly not plotting against you.
It is simply doing its best to protect you based on a deep-rooted survival code that is just desperately, wildly out of date for the modern world. But the science is clear, the tools are sitting right here in front of you, and the choice is ultimately yours. So, are you ready to finally update your survival software?